Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Team Canelo, they're a little upset right now. Not only did Canelo not win Fighter of the Year, but he wasn't even considered a nominee for Fighter of the Year by Boxing Writers Association of America. Canelo Alvarez was completely ignored. But these are the fighters that weren't ignored. These were the candidates. You had Maurice Hooker, Mikey Garcia, Vasyl Lomachenko, and Alexander Usyk. Canelo Alvarez's trainer, he basically said that they felt disrespected and they had beat, quote unquote, pound for pound the best fighter in the world, Gennady Golovkin. Let me go ahead and correct right now. So Golovkin was never pound for pound number one, the best fighter in the world. He wasn't even in the top 5 when it comes to being pound for pound. You cannot be pound for pound the best fighter in the world when you refuse to fight against the best competition in your division. Being pound for pound is about taking risk, regardless if it's moving up in weight or it's fighting against someone that fans feel you may not be able to beat. Dealing with adversity. And that's something that Gennady Golovkin has never really done in his career. But I do agree with Canelo's trainer when he said that that is disrespectful. I do believe that Canelo Alvarez, he should have at least been a candidate, especially if Vasyl Lomachenko was a candidate and he didn't really face the best competition. It really hurt the majority of the media's feelings when Canelo Alvarez beat Gennady Golovkin. Once again, when someone like Jim Lampley, who is Golovkin's biggest advocate, when he says before the fight, if Golovkin loses this fight, his career will be looked at as a joke. Now, this is what Jim Lampley said. You guys have to understand. When Jim says something like that, he puts tremendous pressure not only on Golovkin, but even the fans that support Golovkin. So, of course, if Golovkin loses, they're going to do everything they can do to say, yeah, he lost, but it really wasn't a loss. Because if they admit Gennady Golovkin lost to Canelo Alvarez, then they would have to admit that Gennady Golovkin was just as overrated as people predicted he was before the loss. So what they would rather do is throw Canelo Alvarez under the bus as a sacrificial lamb just to save face for Gennady Golovkin. They understand that if they would have gave Canelo the respect that he deserved and nominated him, that would have made it look as if Canelo really did win the fight, and they couldn't have that. So I wouldn't have had a problem with Canelo being nominated or considered. But on the flip side, Canelo did not deserve to win Fighter of the Year. He didn't even come close to winning Fighter of the Year. That's because you have fighters like Maurice Hooker. He had beat 3 undefeated fighters in a row. In 2018 alone, he beat 2 undefeated fighters and knocked out 1 without any controversy. See, that's the one thing with Canelo Alvarez. Even though Canelo, he beat Gennady Golovkin, and I truly believe he beat him with no controversy. I believe the fight was close enough to where it could have went either way, but I believe that he beat him. I think it's funny because with all of Canelo Alvarez's big wins, they all ended in controversy. His win against Trout, his win against Lara, his win against Golovkin, or the draw against Golovkin, the first fight. But when he finally beats Golovkin with no controversy, even that's considered controversial because the majority of fans said they thought that Golovkin won the fight. But once again, that's more agenda-based, personal agenda-based. Because the majority of professional boxers and trainers, they said that Canelo won the fight. And Golovkin's own trainer didn't even say that he thought that Golovkin won the fight after the fight. I have the actual interview. So with all that being said, there's no way Canelo Alvarez could have won Fighter of the Year with the competition he was up against. And when I say competition, I'm talking about the other candidates. Once again, Alexander Usyk, Maurice Hooker, Mikey Garcia, You know, when it comes to Usyk Alexander, he won the biggest tournament in the sport of boxing. And guys, this just goes to show you, when you hear some of these Canelo Alvarez fans say stuff like, oh, Canelo, he shouldn't fight Charlo because he has nothing to gain in that fight. No, you're wrong. Because if he fought someone like Charlo and beat him, he has Fighter of the Year to gain. He has pound for pound status to gain. Because think about it. The fighters that Maurice Hooker and Usyk beat, the majority of fans don't know their names. Those opponents weren't big money draws. But yet, Alexander and Maurice Hooker, they got rewarded way more fighting those opponents than Canelo Alvarez got for fighting against Rocky Fielding. If Canelo Alvarez would have fought someone like Charlo and beat Charlo right after the controversy of the Golovkin fight, he probably would have got Fighter of the Year. Being pound for pound or being Fighter of the Year, it's about daring to be great. Getting in there and challenging yourself. We know, even according to the Canelo Alvarez fans, they were even admitting in the comment section when Canelo decided to fight against Rocky Fielding. I had people posting comments saying, come on, man, give Canelo Alvarez a break. He deserves an easy fight. He just had a tough fight against Gennady Golovkin, etc., etc., etc. You guys are setting up Canelo for failure. This is the reason why he's not getting Fight of the Year. Because the best don't think that way. The best don't think that way, guys. Beating Rocky Fielding does nothing for Canelo Alvarez. Beating Jamal Charlo, Andrade, Danny Jacobs, that catapults Canelo into Fighter of the Year status. Instead of fighting Rocky Fielding at 168, if Canelo would have fought Gilberto Ramirez, if he would have fought Jose Uzcategui, if he would have fought someone like that, David Benavidez, that would have catapulted him into Fighter of the Year status. And I'm gonna close out with saying this. Once again, for you fans that are still trying to protect Canelo from fighting against Jamal Charlo by saying the most ridiculous things like, now that Charlo was exposed, I don't want to see him fight Canelo. You guys are making it look like you are afraid that Canelo is going to lose to Charlo. Start showing more confidence. Start pushing for the fight, because that makes you guys look like you have no confidence in Canelo Alvarez. Don't you guys know that that's usually when a fighter calls out someone, is when he sees flaws, when he sees openings. He starts to watch this guy fight. It's an undefeated fighter, right? He starts to watch him fight and he says, man, this guy makes a lot of mistakes. I can beat this guy. He's undefeated and I can show people that I'm better than him. That's what a real champion does. You don't say, oh, wait a minute, I see openings, I see flaws. Okay, I don't want to fight that guy anymore because I see openings and flaws now. Does that make any sense? Of course that makes no sense. When Sugar Ray Leonard decided to fight against Marvin Hagler, what did he say? Sugar Ray Leonard, he was watching Marvin Hagler fight and he said, I see something. He said, I see something. Same thing with Mikey Garcia deciding to fight against Errol Spence. Mikey Garcia is fighting against Errol Spence because he sees something. If Mikey Garcia was acting like these scared Canelo fans, Mikey would have said, oh, I see something, and that's the reason why I don't want to fight Errol Spence, because I see flaws. Oh, because he was exposed against this fighter or that fighter. You're supposed to do the opposite. That is the exact reason you go after someone, because you believe you can beat them, because you see the blueprint. Why do you guys think Canelo Alvarez went after Rocky Fielding? Because Rocky Fielding had already been knocked out in the first round before. Because Rocky Fielding was not a threat. Because Rocky Fielding had tons of flaws. That's what Canelo Alvarez seen. That's why Canelo went after him. By using the decaf's logic, if Canelo Alvarez was thinking the way you fans were thinking, Canelo would have never fought against Rocky Fielding because he had already been exposed, right? So why weren't these fans calling Rocky Fielding this bum, saying that he's garbage, he doesn't deserve to fight against Canelo Alvarez? So why is the disdain so personal towards Charlo, but it wasn't towards Rocky Fielding? That's a rhetorical question. Once again, because these fans, they understand Rocky Fielding had no chance of beating Canelo Alvarez, and Jermall Charlo has a very good chance of beating Canelo. So I'll close out with saying this, man. Once again, to these Canelo Alvarez fans, please stop making Canelo look worse. Start showing confidence, man. Start acting like you believe this man, he can beat these fighters. Because no confident fan tells people that he wants his fighter to avoid certain fighters, no matter what excuse you guys use. And that's what you don't understand. You can make tons of excuses, but at the end of the day, all it means is you are afraid and you don't have the confidence in your fighter. I told you guys, I believe Canelo Alvarez eventually is going to get in the ring with the Charlo, with the Danny Jacobs. I'm hoping he fights Danny Jacobs next. And it's going to be a 50-50 fight. All of those fights are going to be 50-50 fights. But like I said, it doesn't matter who you're rooting for. You should want to watch the fight. Even if you think Canelo is going to lose, even if I think Charlo is going to lose, we should all still want to see the fight. Because at the end of the day, it's about watching the best fight the best. That's what makes this sport so great. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.